Hey everyone, kind of continuing showing off some of the cognitive services. In this video, I want to show the form recognizer service, and as you can see, it is AI-powered document extraction that understands your forms. And it's actually pretty powerful. You can understand like invoices and other forms in PDF, but as we'll see, it also understands receipts and even business cards. So to get started, I'm in the Azure portal, and I'm going to create a new resource. Now just type in form to get form recognizer and create. We get a subscription, we give it a resource group. So I'll actually create a new resource group, call it demo RG for resource group. In the region, I'm in the East, so I like to keep everything in the East. Give it a name of recognize forms or anything like that. Pricing tier, there's this free one. You don't get a lot of calls, but this is good for kind of testing out the service or building like a proof of concept type of application. So we'll use that, and because it is preview, we have to confirm that we looked at this notice here. So I'll create that, let it validate real quick. All right, and then click create, and this shouldn't take too long to deploy. All right, and that succeeded, didn't take long at all. We'll go to the resource. And the only thing we really need here are the keys and endpoint, but I'll hold off on that right now. To use this, I'm going to use the Python SDK for it. And here in Jupyter, and to do that, I can do !pip install, and it's Azure-AI-form recognizer. We'll do a couple of kind of sample forms. First is this receipt. Notice that the tip and total are actually handwritten in there, so we can see how well the form recognizer does at parsing that out. And we look at this invoice. It just has one item of a couple of columns in here. And we have a business card. Here's just a real small sample business card that we'll use. So first we need to do some imports here from Azure.ai.form recognizer. We'll import form recognizer client, and from Azure core credentials, we'll import Azure key credential. And both of these are used to kind of authenticate to the form recognizer service. And for that, we'll create a client by using the form recognizer client. And we need two parameters here. First is the endpoint, and we go back to our portal. We have an endpoint here, so we'll just copy that, paste that in. And then for the key, we need to use the Azure key credential. As a parameter for that, we'll put in the key, so we'll copy this over and paste that in. Now this service is, I'm going to delete this after the video, so it doesn't matter that y'all can see the keys and all that. So the first thing is we're going to look at this receipt here and see if we can get the data extracted from that. So I'm going to get the URL for here, put into a variable, and then to read that, we'll look at the receipt recognizer by using the client that begin recognize receipts from URL, and we'll just pass in the receipt URL to it. And from there, we can get a result by calling the receipt recognizer.result method on it. Now the result is kind of a list of this recognized form objects. So we need to loop through it here. So for receipt and result, a few things that we can look at. So we look at the name and then the field items and the receipt, that fields and the items within that, and that's an array. And we can print those things out, take a look. And that has a receipt type. So we can do another. In our fields, we have one with a name called items. So these are actually the items in the receipt. So this has a bit of a weird data structure. If name equals items, these are going to be the actual receipt items. And for index and items and enumerate on the field.value for the items, we can do print an item number, and we'll do an f string here, so index +1, and then for item name and the item and items dot value dot items. Like I said, it's a weird data structure, but hopefully it makes sense when we start looking at the output. We're going to print the item name and then item dot value, and then it has a confidence value on there that we can print out too with the item dot confidence. So let's run this. Let's see, the double equals here. There we go. Alright, so we have two items, a cappuccino and bacon and eggs. And so pretty high confidence here. So cappuccino is $2, bacon and eggs $9.50. So $2 and $9.50. So that's pretty good there. Now for these other items, we can go back and just print the name, and kind of similar to what we have here. It'll be field dot value, and it has confidence field dot confidence. It's going to be everything else. So we have our receipt items that we did, but we also have like the merchant name, phone number, the transaction date and time, and then probably the most important thing here are the totals. We have a subtotal of 11.7, so that's right. But then we have the tip and the total were written in. So the total is 14.5, and that's what we have here. So 14.5. So it reads the handwritten items pretty well there. So that was for the receipt there. Now let's actually read in this form, and it's going to be kind of the same pattern as what we have up here. So form recognizer client that begin recognize content forms from URL, and we need the URL. So say sample form equals that, and then we'll pass in the sample form here. That's custom content form. We just want content from URL. And the same thing for the result form recognizer that result, call that method. And this is a little bit different data structure here. So we have a result, and it's also a list, but it's a form page. We look at the first one. It has a property called tables, which is another list. So let's look at the first one, a list of cells in here, so we can iterate through that. So for say item in the tables dot cells, and then here if it has the row index of 0, so the first row in here, and that is going to be this row of the column names. So row name, and do print the text from it, so the item dot text, and we can also get the location of the item with the item dot bounding box property on it. And this also has a confidence on each of the items as well, item dot confidence. So here we go, the invoice number, invoice date, due date, charges, and VAT ID. So that's the first row. For any other rows, we can print the items, and that's pretty much going to be the same as here. And then we got the first row names, then the items. So the first item corresponds with the invoice number, then the date, then due date, then the charges, and the VAT ID. Next is this business card. So with that, this is actually not in the SDK yet because it's fairly new, but they do have a REST endpoint for it. And since we're calling a REST endpoint, let's bring in requests, and we'll just import get and post methods from it. And we have to build a URL for it. So this endpoint, let's see, I think we saved this in, oh, we didn't save it in a variable, but let's do that here. Endpoint, so we can use it down here. So endpoint, and then it's going to be the form recognizer, then the version, preview version, pre-built, then business card, analyze. And we need some headers for it. First is the content type, we're going to send in the image as a PNG, and then we need to send in the key in its own header as a subscription key. I don't think we saved that as a variable either. Just do that here. And we have some parameters that we can add as well. And we'll just one of them, include text details, and we'll set that to true. Next we need to get the data from this business card. So we'll open it up, we'll give it the name, business card sample.png, and we're going to read in the bytes, which is what the RB is for, as F for file. Then we'll just set a variable data equals f.read, so it's going to read all the bytes into this data variable. And then we will use the post method, give it the URL, give it the data from the file, give it the headers, and then the parameters. And for this response, usually we look at the JSON. I misspelled it there, but I'll just keep it. I think I misspelled subscription. And it errors out, but if we call the headers, we get some information here, and we have this operation location, which is another URL. So we need this URL in order to get our data from the business card. So right here we just told it to analyze on our business card data, and to get the results we need to call this other endpoint. So we get that URL from the response headers, and there's the operation location. Keep forgetting I misspelled that. And then we get that response with the get method. So get URL, give it the headers, and I'll just gonna be that subscription key. There's the key. Now in our get response, we can call the JSON method on it. I misspelled that again, but here we go. So that succeeded, and we have our different lines in our business card. So we have the name, this title, phone number, email, and other information that is on the business card. Alright, so that's kind of a bit of an introduction to using the form recognizer cognitive service. I hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching.